Hey, welcome back to another episode of Geeks from the Multiverse. We got a great episode where we are talking 90s video games. That's right, one of the best decades for video games because we had Sega versus Nintendo, then we had the Nintendo 64. It was a great era for video games, and we're going to discuss it all. Plus, we have another What If But Stupid. So, stay tuned.
We're geeks from the multiverse. We've come to unite all geeks. Now it's time to get geeky and dive right in, 'cause we're geeks from the multiverse.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Geeks from the Multiverse. I'm one of your hosts, Mr. Grumpy Beard. With me, as always, is my buddy John. I always want to say John, and then I get tripped up by wanting to say Captain Lestage.
You should have just went with capitalist. I always do that for you, but I always go, and Mr. Grumpy Beard, you know, and
I don't know. I always get tripped up by it, but with me, as always, my buddy John, a.k.a. Captain Lestage. But
yeah, what's up,
before
y'all?
we start, I do want to say, if you're listening on YouTube or wherever you're listening, whether it's on Spotify or Apple or I don't know, wherever the podcast is that you're listening on, make sure that you give us that support and hit that subscribe, hit the follow button, share it out. Like, it helps really just support us by sharing it out to your friend groups and the people that you know, because we can't just do it on our own. We do share it out, but it really does help us to get this thing out there to the world when others can help share it out. So click on that subscribe, click on the follow. It does help us out. So
Yeah, you know, I know we've been talking a lot. You know, I know our previous episode, we kind of dived into the whole, the 80s, 90s, and, we'll say 2000s in general when it came to, like, have you evolved? And, we were talking about some serious stuff, but, we're trying to lighten it up, of course, this week with, our 90s video games and like the consoles and like how really the console wars really became a really big thing in I would say even the late 80s, and now really the 90s were really the pivotal time for all this that was going on. And nowadays it's crazy to think like, we're at a stage, I know with Matt and I, it's like, when people say, oh, you need to play Xbox and you need to play PlayStation, or, you had to do one or the other. And so like now it's like to the point where there really is no such thing as a console war anymore, because every game is now being cross-played, so you basically it doesn't matter anymore, because that's where it should have been for a long time. But, back then you had to play it on the Nintendo, or you had to play it on the.
I mean, there are still games that are PlayStation, and there still are games that are Xbox.
Oh,
but
no,
a lot
but
of them are
becoming the crossplay.
Yeah, there are becoming crossplay. But I mean, back in the '90s, you didn't necessarily have PlayStation or Xbox yet, but you had.
Well, hold on, you did have PlayStation. It was just early on.
In the early, I'm talking early, like '90s. You really had like the Genesis versus Nintendo. That was really where their arms race between like what was better, the Sega Genesis or the Super Nintendo. And Genesis, actually, we have a picture of the ad right in front of us, and they had this like ad that they put on TV. They put it on in magazines. It was Genesis does what Nintendo don't.
Right, so they were
that
trying.
was their huge ad, and it basically was like, this is what the Genesis can do, but Nintendo can't do it.
Yeah, and it's funny, like Nintendo really didn't have to do that. What they did was they just showed it in their game. So like when you looked at, Mario as like this really pivotal character in a video game, and so you had Mario and Luigi, even though they literally were the same person, but in this case just different colors, and that's what they'd established with.
Right.
But Sonic was more. It was like almost like a 3D version, kind of, not quite there yet. It's still the 2D, but it did a lot more moving, where, Super Mario was still pixelated and it was just like, you only see flat. Sonic was like almost literally a character that you saw.
I mean, it was a little bit better with Super Nintendo. It wasn't as pixelated as like the NES version of it, but I mean, it was still in the 90s when these systems were coming out, you were either a Nintendo kid
or a Sega kid.
or you were a Sega kid.
Because you really couldn't buy I mean, especially I would say for most parents, like, I joke around, especially like, especially with the economy nowadays, what, how much things were back then. Like, it was a lot, don't get me wrong. But at the same time, like your parents weren't buying you both consoles. They were buying you basically that one. And that's what you got.
I actually had both.
Well, then you were the lucky kid. You were the rich kid, is like they like to call it back then.
We weren't rich.
I know you weren't rich, but like, I'm just joking. But like, that's how they
Yeah.
would have viewed it back then.
But I mean, I remember having the Genesis. I actually had the Sega CD too, which was like, if you don't know what a Sega CD was, it basically was the Sega company made a specialized console. It wasn't really a console. It was like an addition to the Genesis. And they started making Sega CD games where you had a portion of it that was a dock. And you would put your Genesis on top of it, and it would plug into the Sega CD, and then the CD portion of it was on the side. So when you turned on your Genesis, you put the disc in, and it would play the Sega CD games.
Hey, question for you. Do you know Dewey? He's like, damn. No, because the only reason why I said it is because it's funny how when you look at Ugandan Knuckles, oh, wait, he was a character in Sonic. Not in the original, I would say, but like later on. But
he was inspired by Sonic, but he did not look
anywhere close to being what he is now.
But that was the thing. Like, you were a Sega kid or you were a Nintendo kid. And I mean, I think when you look at the two systems, obviously Nintendo won that race.
Right. And like, for example, like, kids in the 90s fought harder over Sonic versus Mario than their parents fought over custody. I mean, it's true because,
that's a shocking statement, but
no, but it's true. But like, it's funny how like when people say that Sonic was better than Mario. I mean, they don't get me wrong. When you look at iconic characters, especially like nowadays, like when you put, I think it's like the top 100 characters of all time, Sonic and Mario are definitely in. I would say even in the top 20 because they're still talked about. There's still things that they've been doing. I mean, Mario, for freaking God's sakes, I mean, has so many goddamn video games based off of the Mario characters and like Mario Party, Mario Kart, like, and all these like other different games and this and stuff. But like Sonic has also done some games too, and there's different versions as well. I mean, they've done the Olympics together, both of them, and they did the game together, and they've done that a few times. So it's not like they both, don't do their own separate things, but like it's funny how you have these characters that are just so, I would say, pivotal in the 90s where it was like we said, it's almost like a race war between these two consoles and these two companies, and because those were basically the mascot of the companies for both of them. Like Sega was Sonic, Nintendo was Mario, and so like and I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, well, of course Nintendo was in Japan. Sega, I'm trying to remember if it was technically in Asia or if it was in the United States, because that's the other big thing. Because like it almost seems like it was like a country war, like it's like two separate countries in a sense. You know what I'm saying? Because I can't remember when.
It says it's a Japanese.
So it's funny how it's the same country,
headquartered in Tokyo.
Well, and then Nintendo was the same thing. It was also based in Japan. So it's funny how two companies were formed in the same country, but now they're versing each other. But like I would say in the United States, you're right. I would say Nintendo definitely, and I remember watching that documentary about that. Nintendo was the elite. Sega was trying to get there, and they definitely did certain things. But Nintendo, even till this day, especially with like the Switch and the few other things, Sega's out of business. If I'm not mistaken, I mean the character rights and stuff has been moved on, but like Nintendo's still around, and they're still competing even till this day.
Well, they stopped selling consoles.
Well, yes, but I'm saying
they became a third-party developer and publisher, so they're still doing stuff.
Well, yes,
but they're just not making consoles. So that's basically right now they're Sega Games and Sega Interactive, and that's what Sega Corporation is now. So they have their like arcade division, which is like the Sega Corporation became Sega Games. and they had their arcade division, which makes their arcade games, obviously, was Sega Interactive, and then Sega Games and then Interactive merged back again to become the Sega Corporation. But Sega still makes games.
No,
That's what they
right.
do now, but they just don't make consoles.
No, correct. And that's not what I meant. I mean, it's just like I said, back then, this was like the two biggest companies that were going against each other because, like, nowadays it is PlayStation and Xbox. And then basically, I'd say, sure, you can throw in like Steam or PC or whatever you want to call it. But, the console wise, those were the PlayStation and Xbox basically took over what Sega and Nintendo were back in the day. And so, yes, kind of, moving along here. So, Nintendo, when the Nintendo 64 arrived, this was back in 1996. This was, of course, like already midway through the 90s. This already jumped into the 3D, kind of like that, again, three-dimensional, like being able to see like every, like moving body parts and like just being able to see all that. And it blew people's minds.
Granted, it was blocky.
It was blocky. You're right. Especially like, I'm trying to remember.
Well, GoldenEye was the very
well, no.
first. I mean, it was
Yes.
one of the more popular games.
But like, I was also thinking like, was it Super Mario?
Well, say it was Super Mario 64.
Yes, it was. Yes, and
Yeah.
I remember that
But
because
it was, I mean, even though like most games was like you were not in a 3D space. So it was side scrolling, environments that you looked overhead.
yes,
In most of these, Sega games or Nintendo games, like when you played Tecmo Super Bowl
yes,
for Nintendo, like you were looking overhead.
yes, and you were looking. Yeah, you were basically looking down, or even the it was a Tecmo. No, what's the basketball one that they used to do?
Oh, I never played basketball.
Well, I know, but I think I know. Yes, Tecmo football. Yes, I get that. Or the. But anyways, no. The point is like yeah, like the different sports games were always the overhead and never really like you're
But
seeing.
you
them
were
side
either
to
looking
side.
at the side or you were looking overhead, or it was something like that. Even with Sega, it was kind of the same thing. But when you were playing the 64, this is where you were more in a 3D space. So you can, like, yes, everything was blocky. So they would basically take like the arms were square, the body was square, the head was square, and they basically would take like an image of the person and wrap it around the square shapes.
Right, and
So like
yeah.
the trees, the cars, the environments were all like square shaped.
So like I remember in Super Mario 64, like you saw like an interactive world where you are looking down on Mario a little bit, but like you're still being able to turn the camera and like be able to see the world around you. And I understand that. Yes, I know Matt's gonna lovely talk about GoldenEye here in a little bit here, but like again, it was that same thing where you're seeing the world around you. It's not. It's almost like that. But again, it was also like GoldenEye was the first person. You're seeing that like in their view, and then you're being able to shoot the gun and stuff. But like, there wasn't a whole lot of that when you're talking about the original Sega or Super Nintendo or Nintendo. Because there wasn't. They didn't have that concept yet. Like you said, it was a side scrolling or like looking down, and so now this has jumped in further technology, which would then become almost basically a company standard for video games because nobody wanted to just side scroll anymore like this or look down, even though there are still games that you do still look down, but it's more, you can see the better graphics for it.
Yeah. And
so.
I mean, the 3D space wasn't something, I mean, Doom had done this. I mean, granted it's more of a computer based game, but I mean, it was more pixelated stuff that Doom was doing, but, the N64, when it arrived, you have to understand the Genesis had 2 controller ports. The Nintendo had 2 controller ports. Even the PlayStation, when those came out, had 2 controller ports. When the N64 came out, it had 4. And now, when this one came out, it was like, holy shit, there's 4 controller ports on this thing. Now we can have 4 friends playing all at the same time. And this is where, yes, I am going to mention GoldenEye because GoldenEye was the most popular game. And at this point, like, if you can find it for under $50, good luck to you.
Yeah, because now
I think if you go on eBay, somebody's probably selling it for like $3,000.
Oh, yeah.
That's how popular it is. And you just cannot find it because
It's
you
rare.
you actually did GoldenEye sleepovers because of how long you were playing this game, and it was one of the consoles that was like you did, and it wasn't online.
Correct. You actually
You
had to be in a
actually-
room with somebody.
You had to be in the room, and I think we kind of touched on this in the last episode a little bit, where yes, you had to go and like on your TV, which they weren't like 70, 65-inch TVs that you put on your wall. No, they probably were like maybe 30, 40 at the most.
Oh, I was gonna say even like the 20 to 25, but like
Yeah.
that was pushing it too.
But like each person would have their own little tiny square.
But
If you had 4 players, and you would basically, it would be like your early version of Call of Duty.
right, but I'm gonna go back to the TV for a second. This one you actually wait, you ready? Unless you didn't have a remote, you actually had to turn on the damn TV button.
And it
You
was
know,
a tube. There were tube TVs.
Right, and so
Tubes.
again, and these things were heavy. These weren't just
Yeah.
like your typical
they
like
were-
thin whatever. These things, like if you broke it, good luck trying to replace
Yeah.
it that quickly. But anyways,
Yeah,
yes.
these were. I mean, GoldenEye was legendary, and you actually came up with rules. There were rules for this game, and we had a fun conversation before we even like started recording, because there was one character in this game, and it's based on 007 GoldenEye. If you know the character, you know the movie GoldenEye. In the movie, there's a character named Oddjob.
Well, I know in the movie, like he definitely wasn't as short as in this person in the game was.
No, but in the game, he's short. And I don't know why they made him short, but they made him shorter than where your crosshair is in the game. So if somebody picked Oddjob, in order to shoot at this character, you had to physically aim down. And one of the things that if you played this game, you would pick Oddjob because you would just murder everybody, because people forgot that they had to aim down to get you. So you would start making rules like no picking Oddjob. If you pick him, you're out. Like, get your controller and get the hell out of my house.
Actually, how many times now I'm thinking about it? How many times have you actually had to do that though?
Oh, we got pissed. We were actually angry because we had that one friend that would always pick Oddjob, and he would run around. Because like in this game, like you could pick golden guns, which were basically just a golden pistol.
Right.
And in the game, it was a one-shot kill. So everybody had golden guns, and you basically would run around, and this motherfucker would have the golden, like everybody would have a golden gun, and because nobody can shoot him, he'd just be killing everybody.
How many times do you have to throw this guy out though?
Well, it was his house, so I guess.
Oh, so that's why it was harder to be like,
Yeah.
oh, you son of a bitch. Like,
But you could do rocket launchers. You could do. I mean, there were different guns that you could pick as like these are the only weapons that are in the game, and it just was a really, really fun game. But the thing is,
oh, here we go.
the controller, and
The infamous Trident.
yes, and I don't know what Nintendo was thinking. I don't know if they thought kids had 3 hands, but there was a joystick on 2 of the Tridents and a directional pad on the 3rd.
Yes, because if I remember correctly, your directional or your what we call like the up and down arrows and all that shit, it was on the left hand side. You had a joystick in the middle of the Trident.
The yellow one, I think, was in the middle.
Was it in the middle?
I think it was in the middle, and then
the
your
other weird, the long one. It was a very long fucking
Yeah.
joystick, which you're like, how do I have a third hand? And then why is my thumb going
like,
all
yeah,
the way up?
Which one do I? I mean, we played this thing all the time, so we must have like been used to playing it.
I mean, clearly, but it's just
But-
it's the way you're holding it.
Like, was it a genius innovation, or was it just ergonomic torture?
Both.
You
it
know,
was both.
It just, what were they thinking when they made this damn controller? Like, why would you make 3 different, handheld pieces on it? It's just really, really, when I look at it now, it's like, I wouldn't even know how to hold this thing now.
right, and try to redo
to
what I
play it,
did.
but like, the console was so freaking amazing. when it first came out. And I mean, obviously now if you go back to playing it, you would play GoldenEye now and you'd be like, what is this bullshit?
Yeah, like, what is this shit? And then my favorite, well, I know Matt's like, oh, whatever. But so the Sony, right? So Sony, when they came out with the original PlayStation, it was, when you look at the controller itself, at least because honestly, when you look at the newer DualShock controllers that they have now, it really, I'm not saying they definitely updated it for sure, but like from the PS1 to PS2, there really wasn't much of a difference per se. It was literally the color. One was, again, the original PlayStation was basically gray, and then of course, PlayStation 2 had all black. 3, updated it some more. 4, same thing, and then 3 through 5 was basically very similar, but just added a couple different features. But looking at the original PlayStation, though, I mean, Sony at this time, they enter the ring after their partnership with Nintendo, because it fell apart. The PlayStation hit back in 1994, destroyed expectations, and CDs instead of cartridges meant bigger games, voice acting, and what does that say? FMVs?
FMVs.
I was trying to figure out what that was. Do you know what that is?
I don't know what that is.
Okay, well, I don't know what FMV is, but I was like, okay. The point is, though, actually, hold on real quick. So, yeah, PlayStation was instantly cool. The startup sound alone, oh, I know, because I actually have I think I have the PS2 one, but even the first one, it was weird because like each one of those systems had their own like cool way of introducing the console. But I'll talk about this in a second. But like when you look at the PlayStation, I mean, yes, it hit the market hard, and I mean when you look at the fact that even a CD versus a cartridge, instead of going, doing that the entire time to like make sure the game was actually in there correctly and it would start up correct. A CD, I mean, at that time, yeah, sure. I mean, I get that you're like, wait, a CD? What happened to VHS? Or, you're not having to do all that with a tape. So it was just innovative for their time. And PlayStation,
I believe it means full motion videos.
Okay, full motion videos. That makes sense.
Yes.
But like PlayStation really took off. And I mean, I'm not saying it outdid both of them at the time, but it was competing. It was a major contender.
I do remember. I think I did have the original PlayStation, because I do remember the discs being the underneath being black.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that
so
makes sense. Yes.
I do remember having a PlayStation, but I don't think I ever had a 2.
Okay. Well, no. So I know I had a 2. So like it was a little different. I mean, yeah. So like when you look at the original design of the PlayStation, yeah, I mean, it kind of looked like you were playing like you're kind of like old Nintendo, but in this case, it was like a more
circle on the top.
Yeah, right. But right, that's where you would put the.
Then you had the one button on one side and
the other side. Well, and then and so like I said, the design of all the PlayStations have changed, but like I said, they created a phenomenon that literally has changed the world to this day, and so that was where PlayStation really developed. But here's the question: did PlayStation steal Nintendo's thunder, or just evolve what Nintendo started?
I don't think they stole Nintendo's thunder. I mean, I think they took what Nintendo started, and I think they just evolved into what they are today. I think they just were like, what is Nintendo doing, and how can we do it better? And I think
that's what I was going to say, like the innovative piece.
I think, the move of doing CDs instead of cartridges was like, with cartridges, yes, you're limited. So with CDs, like there's more memory that you can put onto CDs. You can do more of that voice acting, and the full motion videos you can do with CDs than you can't do that with cartridges.
Right. There was only so much you could do at that point. But I agree that it was the innovative piece where they understood the future, I think, at that point. And I think they were like, how can we drive this into the future of what it is today? I mean, we still use CDs in the sense we just do it in a different technology. I mean, back then, of course, it was like DVDs, and, Sony really, really drove, especially later on, the whole Blu-ray thing. Because once Blu-ray came out, everyone's like, oh, we got to do that. And guess what? Sony, I'm pretty sure, I didn't think they patented it, but they were basically the ones that said, hey, we're going to have a Blu-ray drive in our system. Best decision they ever made.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I know Xbox took so friggin' long to get into that program. But again, Sony definitely had that innovative taste that really drove them to be a powerhouse down the road. But again, at this time, Nintendo and Sega were still at it. They were there. Sony just was like, hold on a second, hold my beer. Yeah, hold my beer. Let me show you something real quick. And that's what they basically did.
Yeah, I mean, Sega didn't really have anything beyond really the Genesis. I mean, they stopped, like I said, they stopped making consoles at a certain point.
Yeah, and I think it was up until I think it was like late '90s maybe, and then they just kind of
after I think they did the Sega CD. I don't really think. I mean, there were a lot of good games for Sega, but I had a Genesis, and I don't really remember a whole lot of decent games for it. But I mean, you're really talking about there were still the Sega versus Nintendo, especially when we get to handheld.
Oh, that changed a lot of things.
You have Game Boy.
Oh, I remember the Game Boy Color, man.
Yeah, that was.
Oh,
that was. I mean, when the Game Boy came out, it was like, what? I can have this in my hand and play anytime
anywhere.
I want. Yeah, and that was like, wow. And
the color, man. It was the coolest thing to me. And I remember as a kid, I remember having it, and honestly, I was like,
you know what?
You were the cool kid.
We actually have a shirt on our merch store.
We do. Okay, not the original Game Boy, but like I said, the color was the one I remember having. Yeah. But the thing is, though, about it is that this was the first time that, especially like again, Nintendo, they really created that handheld. And then here's another fun fact: was Tetris. It sold more copies than Mario, and kids were glued to that green screen under terrible lighting, which is absolutely true. Because I remember at some point with the Game Boy Color, there was two things I remember, or at least with the Game Boy Advance and a few other things. So what they would do is I remember the wire. They remember there was I know Game Boy basically created this wire. So I know this is where I know Matt doesn't know, or at least he never played it as much. Is so in Pokemon, you had to use a wire if you wanted to trade Pokemon with another person. So they created a wire to be able to trade with one another. And I do remember Game Boy actually creating a light that was like you would attach it to like the back or something like that, and it would show you, like as it said, the terrible lighting, because that's true. Because if you were in a dark room, you're screwed. Like you always had to have a light on because you're like, okay, I can't see what is going on. But that was one of those things that Game Boy really kind of helped drive that. But again, Sega's Game Gear, which I never even heard of, looked gorgeous in color, but the thing ate 8 AA batteries in less than 3 hours. Holy crap.
Yeah.
I mean, that's terrible. That is absolutely terrible. And then really, here's the thing. Game Boy's endurance versus Game Gear's power. What mattered more in the long run? Honestly, I would say, endurance, sure, whatever, but I was going to say at this point it was power. You needed to make sure that you were charging your handheld at that point, and you needed to make sure that it wasn't, in this case, eating up 6 AA batteries in 3 hours. Like, I mean, dude, you're going through more batteries than I do most of the time anyways. So you're talking, okay, now you have to buy this like massive case of batteries to play maybe a 3-hour session. You know what I mean? That's insane.
Yeah, that's insane.
I mean, think about it. I mean, like imagine because nowadays, I mean, I know with PlayStation controllers, yeah, you can typically charge them pretty quick, but like, I can't imagine getting all these AA batteries and be like, hey, by the way, hold on, let me go get this battery box that I have here. I mean, they didn't have rechargeable batteries yet. That's the worst part.
No.
So like, you had to go and get like your Energizer or Duracell or whatever it was back in the day. And that was what it was. And you just kept eating them like it was nothing. You're like, okay, well, okay, cool, whatever. I don't know. That's just me.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever had, and this is probably going to be controversial, but I don't think I ever really had a Game Boy.
Excuse me? You never even had a Game Boy? How dare you, sir?
I know. And I mean, I think I had one like a little bit later on, but
he was like, I was in college, man. I didn't do that shit. I was too kiddish. He's like, that's a kid thing. And I'm like, yeah,
I mean,
that's right.
I always had consoles, and I think that's kind of what I always played. Well, I think like, I mean, yes, I was like in high school in 94-ish. Like when a lot of these things came out, like I was probably in high school, and then right when high school was done. Like I was already working, and you know what I mean. So like I don't know if like
He's like, I was above all that
I
shit.
actually don't remember. I had something that was similar to the Game Gear, but it wasn't Game Gear.
Like I said, I never even heard of it. To be honest, I never really seen what it looked like.
I want to say it was like the Vega or something. It was something similar.
So
to
it was like
that.
an off-brand, basically.
It was an off-brand, but it was a more popular than like, just saying Vega. Like it wasn't like, some weird Japanese version you would buy like on some
Like
random
Temu
like,
now,
yeah.
or something.
It definitely was more like like you would buy it at like Toys R Us or something, something like that. But
Yeah,
definitely wasn't like a Sega or Sony or it wasn't like a main. It was probably like a knockoff brand, but it definitely had pretty good games to it. But
so
I don't know. I mean, definitely Game Boy was the best out of all of them based on the games. But I think the Game Gear, even though like it ate power, I think the game, again, I didn't have it, but based on the pictures that I saw, I think like maybe the games were like a little bit better.
yeah, but here's the thing though, with Game Boy Color, I mean, it was still, just trying to think of the right word here. So like I know like again, a lot of the games at that time, especially for Nintendo. I mean, yes, Pokemon was big. It was big, and that was one of their more popular games at that time. But like, when you're looking down on a character and you see like the battles and you see certain things. I mean, that was things that you didn't see in another game previously, like in a console wise. So like they definitely made it more like improved, versions of certain things. So like it's just, you look at this and I say, you know what? I guess for me, if I'm a gamer, I mean, yes, of course I want good games and I want to have that variety, but at the same time, I want to make sure that the power that I'm using is not going to be wasted. Because if you're going to play like a handheld game or like a console game, you're not going to waste six batteries on it.
The Game Gear had a TV tuner adapter mod.
What? A TV adapter tuner mod?
Yeah.
I've never heard of
I don't know when it came out, but I guess there is a TV tuner that would make your Game Gear basically into like a portable TV.
That's crazy. I've never heard of that. That talk about innovative things that were going on, but we just, we don't hear about it as much.
Yeah, that's just kind of crazy.
But I guess moving forward here, since we've talked about this for a little bit now, the big, important, impactful games. So yes.
Yeah, so we're not obviously going to like spew out every single game that came out for every single system, but
we'll definitely talk about the really important ones that were.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about GoldenEye already, so I think we can bypass that one, but that one was like your first person shooter.
Super Mario, yes, we've also talked about a little bit as well, and I figured, that one was just a kind of an open world concept, exploring each different worlds as Mario and, doing all that for the first time.
Yeah.
But I'll talk about this one because I know Matt doesn't really know a whole lot about it.
Yes.
And it's also not his favorite one either. But Pokemon Red and Blue, oh my God, man, I'm going to tell you, as a kid, it was one of the best damn versions. It's funny because I know you're like...
description is hilarious.
So anyway, so it is a... Oh, God. Now I'm reading it. So, so I'll read the description and then I'll get into it in a second. So a phenomenon that, the Game Boy was suddenly a tool for trading, battling... and running your own animal cockfights. I mean, the fact that it says that, I'm like, my God.
That's hilarious.
And then, how the link cable was revolutionary and turned schoolyards into black markets. It's true. So I'm going to say this, right? So
your kids are like, hey, you want to give me your Pokemon?
Hey, you want to give me your Pikachu, brother? You're like, wait, what? No, so...
I'll trade you right now.
I'll trade you my Charizard for a fucking Bulbasaur, bro.
What you got, bro? What you got right now?
It's like, wait, you're selling crack? No, we're selling Pokemon, man.
Hey, leave us alone. We're doing animal cockfights here.
So
God, that's so fucking weird.
I can't even with you.
It's so weird.
Well, the thing is about Pokemon is like, it was such a phenomenon. I mean, even now it's still a big thing. I mean, the fact that, for example, like one, one original like trading card from back in the like a Charizard, for example. Like this thing, especially like a holographic. I mean, one was sold. I think it was like Logan Paul or whatever. That sold for about $3 million or so because it was a 10. It was a PSA 10, which is insane. But anyways, the whole point of Pokemon is you're battling. It's a different style of gaming, and so like in that time frame, there was yellow, red, blue. Yeah, it was yellow, red, and blue were the original games. Yellow was because like each of those colors were based off of the different starter Pokemon that you would typically get. So like a red would be your Charizard, your blue would be your or I guess red would be your Charmander, blue would be like your Squirtle, yellow was basically Pikachu. But dude, for me as a kid, it was my childhood. I can tell you there were times I remember going to a restaurant with my family, and I would sit there. And I would, because there's no such thing as a save point, right? So you are basically at a time where you could just pause it and then come back to it like so often. I remember literally playing the game and I had to go into a place in the game where I could save the game because you couldn't just stop what you were doing or you were going to lose everything.
That was most
games. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So this game was just, for me, it was my childhood because
parents didn't understand that shit either.
No, I know, and they didn't. But my dad,
you need to shut that game on. Like I can't.
Right, and so my dad understands, and you understand, but others. Didn't.
I have to find the library. There's a book I have to go to save it at, and they're like,
what the fuck are you talking about?
Turn it off. Like, no.
I have to go to the library.
To this library, it's in this part of the map. I am all the way across the map. Like I have to run there.
You do not understand me.
You don't understand.
So, like I said, I mean, I know basically whoever hears this for Pokemon, I'm telling you, if you understand, you know. But I'll tell you that it was just for the time, it was one of those games that I can't even describe it. I mean, you just have to live it. You have to experience it. I mean, they still make Pokemon games till this day. I mean, it's crazy that they've had I think it's like 14 different versions of it. And they have the show and they have all different things. I mean, and kids still do it. I mean, I hope one day I'm going to tell my son, I'm like, listen, man, you're going into Pokemon and you're going to have some animal cockfights, brother. That's exactly what you're going to be doing, brother.
You're going to be doing some animal cockfights, and you're going to be trading that shit like you're in the fucking black market and selling them like you're on the fucking dark web, motherfucker.
Like, hey, you want a Pokemon, brother?
hey, I got a nice Squirtle over here for you.
Hey, don't give me that Bulbasaur. I need that Charizard. I need that little Pikachu.
Anyways, we're going to move on. So Final Fantasy VII. I do remember this game. I mean, I don't think I've ever played like the shit. I wouldn't say that, but I definitely played Final Fantasy VII, and it was released in '97. But this one really was like, I don't really remember Final Fantasies being popular before this. I mean, they probably were, but
yeah, I mean, because like I remember telling you a while back, my dad had the Super Nintendo, and he had, I think it was like Final Fantasy 3, or it was like 2 or 3. It was one of the early ones, but it was like it was the one that was like you kind of looked over above, and like you're taking turns and doing all that.
Right. It was very, very old, but this one was it was art.
It was art.
This one was like cinematic cutscenes that had a real emotional story. I can't say, by playing it, like I was one of these kids that cried over Aerith's death. I'm not sitting there, oh my God,
you died.
No, fuck him. I don't care. I mean, but it was one of those stories that's like, you're looking at these real cinematic, like anime style scenes, and you're like, holy fuck, like this is gorgeous. As a game, like you're just like, wow, because there was nothing like it before.
Right, and I mean, again, this is where 3D really took over that, and it showed the characters and the emotions, and like we talked about, even with like Sony, they started to create these things that were almost like masterpieces before its time, and so Final Fantasy really kind of drove that. So having this kind of like the next question, did Final Fantasy VII create the idea that games could be art?
It definitely did. I mean,
absolutely.
I think you look at this game, and then you look at games now where you have, I mean, even Call of Duty. You look at what they do with their single player campaigns, and I mean, right now I'm playing Borderlands 4.
I figured
I did pick it up, but like even Borderlands 4, like what they're doing with just that game and the cinematics that they do, it's like, can games be art? Yes, they absolutely can. And the stories are
a
just
lot
like
of games like that.
it just you're looking at it and it's like, wow, like the art is just so amazing. And
This is so for you when you're playing Borderlands 4, it was like me when I was playing like God of War. Like some of the when you're seeing the graphics, when you're seeing the
Elden Ring is
world.
another one of these.
Right, and it's like you're immersed in the world, you're feeling it, you understand it, and then you're building your character. But it's like it's like you're almost in it, and
Right.
and that was kind of the whole feel with like this Final Fantasy
Yeah.
7 here,
And
where
even Elden Ring, not just the cinematics of it, but in the game. Like when you're standing in a high point, you can look around in this open world view. You can see areas where, like, literally about 10 minutes ago, I was standing over there.
right,
And then you can go stand over there and then go, literally 2 seconds ago, I was still like, because you can see literally that far. And it's like, the world is so beautiful in its art. Like, you look all the way back to 97 and you're like, this is the start of where these games got their
form, I mean it's like almost a standard now. Like if it's not a beauty of art, like no one's gonna play the game because and I wouldn't say like the most important thing, but I would say definitely graphics are a big thing now. Like because that is your major part, but also
that's why these games are like 300 gigs.
yeah, like and they're like there's so much now versus like back then it was like 25 megabytes or less than that.
Oh yeah.
And then
I don't think I've ever played this game. To be honest,
I never did. And so the thing is, we're going to talk about it real quick. Is Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. Now, Legend of Zelda originally, I mean, this was an old school Nintendo game too. But like, they definitely did a lot with like this and like again, this is the whole 3D thing where the Nintendo 64 in a sense. It says. Critically acclaimed as one of the greatest games ever made, massive, immersive, timeless mechanics. How Ocarina raised expectations for adventure games forever. I mean, I've heard about it and I've seen people. I mean, Legends of Zelda, I think just in general, you take hours. It's not, or no, let me rephrase that. I mean, you'll play it for a long time. Like it's one of those games that you will play for a while. It's not like okay, we're going to play like 10, 15 hours and we're going to call it a day. Like this was a game you'd spend time in. You know what I mean? Like you're not going to just put like, okay, we're only going to put 10 hours in. That's fine, whatever. And then just call it a day. No, like you would immerse yourself and you would grind the hell out of this and stuff like that. And so like, and it's right where adventure games now, when you're looting and shooting and grinding for those things and getting your gear up to a certain level, like that was the thing. That's the whole. I'm not saying like every game's like that, but like
this was to do that. The original was released in '98 for the 64,
right?
And so it was the first to bring the franchise into the 3D world. So that's kind of where, but it basically was lauded for its like immersive 3D world. The controls, the cinematic quality, and the traditional dungeons.
Right. And I mean, like when you look back at the old school Nintendo for, Legend of Zelda, I mean, you look down on the character and it was very pixelated and it wasn't like, I'm not saying people wouldn't do it, but like, it just, to me, when I look at it, it was very cheesy. It wasn't like maybe the same feeling. This was like, oh,
and then, you're like, and then in 2011 for the Nintendo 3DS,
oh, okay.
They did a Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time 3D where it significantly improved the graphics and the 3D quality and the quality of life improvement of the game. So
I mean, and that's
better.
I was gonna say with adventure games now, like one of the things that Matt and I like to always play is like the adventure open world experience, and so like I know we played a lot of like Dead Island back in the day, but like. Yeah, I mean, we're grinding the shit out of the game. We're sitting there like, okay, we got to build our weapons. We got to do all this. We got to upgrade our characters. We got to do the skills. That was like one of those things about adventure games now that's what we like. We like to be able to like grow our character, build our character. It could be different from one another. Like you might have a certain set of abilities and I might have something else, but like you're building it as you go and like having that like companionship of a journey together, and that's kind of like what we've done in the past. Like, don't get me started on Wildlands. That's all I'm gonna say.
Oh boy.
You know, or anything like that. But it made it different.
Trying to defeat the damn Predator. Yeah.
Don't even
Oh,
fucking
boy.
start with that. But
So yeah, moving on from that one, because we both never played Legend of Zelda, but I'm sure we played the shit out of Mortal Kombat.
yeah, hold
So
on.
This wasn't just a game. This was like people.
This is a lifestyle.
Yeah, this was a cultural event. So it was the blood, the fatalities, the outrage that people had when they got defeated.
Oh, you mean the finish him?
Oh yes, whoop-dee.
Whoop-dee.
You remember that?
Yep.
I mean, this game literally created the ESRB rating system that we know of today for video games.
Which is absolutely insane. So how one game, and this is why it's important. So the fact that there was no rating system ever before, because basically most games were basically PG, I guess if you want to call it, or G rating. Now this one took the next level and said, hey, by the way, we made a so violently bloody game that we now have to basically make sure that kids aren't playing this game. Because unless it was like, the older kids or like your adults, basically.
Yeah. I was actually watching a video on how they recorded like all the character, and this is the original game.
Yeah.
Like how they recorded all the like the character movements, like how they all like do that weird movement.
Yeah.
And even when they're like stunned, they do like that
the
weird like fast
wobble.
like
Yeah.
and even into the like their individual move sets and everything, like the punching and the
Oh, yeah. Like Scorpion and yeah.
they actually did live video recordings, and then when they went in to do the actual game itself to program like the model of the characters, they modeled it after these actors videos.
Okay, that makes sense.
So all of the actors that are like playing these characters, like they're all doing the
Like
actual
the wobbling and the
and they modeled the character. It was kind of cool to see. Like I'm like, wow, they actually took video of these guys, and then so what you're watching in the game is actually the videos from these guys.
Well, and it's also
doing
weird.
this.
I mean, because when you look at the original Mortal Kombat, I mean, it was weird because you're seeing them side by side, but now they almost look like human-like, which is basically the whole point of that.
Yeah.
And then it was weird when they, again, like the original fatalities or brutalities or whatever the heck they did. It was just like, the guy was like, finish him, and he would like do that right. Yeah, and like the whole like uppercut punch, and like all you see is like the head flying up and the spine comes out, and then they like grab it and go, and it's like holy shit, back in the day, this is why we were saying, I mean, yes, they had court hearings, they actually had physical things that were going on because they were
and
like,
if you were playing the arcade version of this,
Oh my
it
God.
was a whole lot worse.
it probably was.
Oh yeah.
It and it's sad that like I know Matt played the newest version of Mortal Kombat. It's
Mortal Kombat 1. Yeah.
1. I played basically. I remember. I think it was Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks. It was that random like offset or whatever.
I loved
like
I
the
loved
random.
Deadly Alliance.
Deadly Alliance was good.
Freaking awesome.
I mean, so they definitely did. I mean, after like the 90s and stuff. I mean, 2000s. They console wise, like I know PlayStation was a big proponent. They definitely like did a little offshoots and stuff, but then what they decided to do back in like 2009, they wanted to like reinvent the wheel again, or really kind of remaster the old style, but like take it to there. And I played that all the way even till now, and I'm like, dude,
I'm not a huge fan of 1, to be honest. I think they changed a lot of the move sets, and it's not as. I think 1 isn't as good as like 10 and 11. I never actually played 11, but
I played them all. I can tell you I would say all of them. I mean, they're just as gory. They're just as like
no, and I get it. I mean, I know that they made 1 look more like Injustice, and
yes,
they
did.
I get the style, but like when you're playing as certain characters, they just don't hit like the same way. Like when you play a Scorpion, he just doesn't hit like
he used to.
The classic Scorpion did. So I mean, but the game was iconic when you're playing the classic game. I mean, you could hit people and they would, if you uppercutted them in a certain like map.
Yeah.
Like they would go into like a slime pit.
Yeah.
Or if you were playing on that upper bridge, like you would uppercut them and they would fall down and like into the spike pit. So, I mean, the game was just iconic. And then seeing what it is today, like it's cool to see like how it's evolved.
Oh yeah, and how gory and bloody it actually has evolved into that because, and like you said, I mean, back in the day, you're just like, oh my god, like what is going on right
Yeah.
now? And this has transformed that even more. But our next topic
It's
is
an
actually
interesting one because Earthworm Jim was, I wouldn't say it was a big game, but it definitely was weird. It's a chaotic comedy. It's weird. It's gross. It's absurd. But it stood out because I mean, yes, it was kind of like a side scroller, but it would also go, it would go up and to the side. You know what I mean?
so it's kind of like your classic like Mario in a sense, but like in this case, it's like more that three dimensional kind of character without having. But it was kind of like a mix between the both. That's what I do
Yeah,
remember from
yeah.
it.
It just
But
was weird. I mean, you basically had a worm who, was just being a worm, and then a suit kind of fell on top of him, and there was a super suit. So now he's like
talking and
this like worm that's kind of has like a super suit. He's got a ray gun, and he's whipping people with his own body, and he's like Indiana Jonesing on trees, with his own body basically.
yeah.
But it's just like this weird game and something with like cows, and it's a weird chaotic mix of
I guess a bunch of games. I mean, it's just
yeah.
it's comedy in so many different ways. But like, you look at the game. I mean, it's funny. We actually we're kind of listening to this before. We were recording a little bit, and we were listening to the voice, man. Oh my god!
Oh my gosh, yeah.
The guy who so think about it like this: the guy who plays Homer Simpson in, of course, The Simpsons, is the same dude or one of the guys, or at least one of the voices of this character, and we were cracking up for the amount of stuff that he was yelling out, and just like it was insane.
really really funny. I mean, Earthworm Jim just embodies that like bizarre experimental kind of energy that the '90s brought.
Which basically we're going to talk about now in our next couple episodes down the road. We're going to be talking about a concept idea.
Actually, next week.
Yes, in the next week and the following week is we're going to be talking about a concept idea that we decided like for AI versus Hollywood. So we're going to do is we're going to basically take Earthworm Jim, and we're going to see how AI has created a style of Earthworm Jim in a more modern take of it. And it's their version of this. And so again, it's not something we wrote, but it was something that, AI was like, hey, let's try this out. And it's actually, Matt created this beautiful concept video that we're going to show you at some point as well.
It's going to go out probably this week. And then, when we do the episode and we talk about it, like this movie concept, granted, we are not making a movie, but the concept would be a mixture of live action, CGI, and practical effects.
Yeah.
So it's not like we're making like an animated movie or whatever of Earth. No, this is like live action, CGI with practical effects as much as possible.
I mean, it's crazy that, we've done some AI versus Hollywoods. I mean, we're just basically taking original ideas. Now we're just going to take an idea that was already made. I mean, because Earthworm Jim, we're going to, of course, move forward here in a minute. But like, there has been a TV show. They actually were trying to create a new TV show back in like 2021.
Another animated one, yeah.
Yeah, but like there hasn't been an actual movie. So the fact that we're saying, you know what, let's try it in our realm of animated movies in the sense.
I'm really excited for this too.
I am too. But you know what? I think we're going to pause here for a second because we're going to jump into What If But Stoopid kind of segment here. So kick it.
What if?
But stupid!
I really love the "but stupid."
I love that too.
I love that too. Anyways, guys and gals, and anything else you want to be called, we're going to be jumping right into the "What If But Stupid." So yes, in this case, what if Mario isn't a hero at all? What if he's just a Brooklyn plumber who did too many shrooms, and what we're seeing is his insane hallucination?
Oh, interesting.
I read this before we did this, and I thought to myself, what in the hell did AI said? You know what, we're gonna create this idea, and we're like, this is absolutely insane. So we're gonna start right here. So the delusion versus reality. Okay. So the quest. Okay. In Mario's head. Okay. This is what he's thinking. I gotta save Princess Peach. Okay. So let's
Okay.
start with
I mean, that's pretty much the gist of the game.
right. And so now the reality is this: his wife left him. She's now dating a buff dude
Oh,
with a
boy.
beard and leather jacket,
Ugh.
who Mario swears is Bowser, King of the Koopas.
Oh boy.
So that already tells me a lot right there. And I'm just like, Mario, what are you doing, brother?
Oh,
why
boy.
are you doing this shit?
Oh boy.
So I don't know. Do you want me to do the next one? You do the.
I can do the next one, but this is just one of those weird, crazy things. Because if you've ever played a Mario game,
Yep.
you know that there is some weird, wacky shit in those games.
Yes.
I mean, he goes down into pipes. You are in a cloud city. Then you're underwater. Then you're in some kind of underground dungeon area. Like,
Yeah.
but there's other games where you're like, what, like a Vox, or like you're different animals that have different abilities.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so like there's so many there's so much random shit in these Mario games where you're like, maybe this is a plausible.
This could be
maybe-
very real.
Maybe
Yes.
these are really just insane hallucinations. I mean, there's one literally where you're in the clouds and you're hopping on the tops of trees.
Right.
You know, I
Like,
could it be possible? So we get into this like, so one, we have Princess Peach is his wife. She left him, and he thinks her boyfriend is Bowser. Okay, Koopas. Those are cockroaches he's stomping in his apartment. You know, we have Goombas. Those are random pigeons in the street that he keeps drop kicking.
I know. Go
You
ahead.
know, it's the Hammer Brothers. You know those guys. They're the I guess they're like the Koopa, the bigger Koopas that are like
Oh yeah, doing yeah.
they're chucking the hammers at you. Well, those are a rival plumber union down the block.
So imagine a guy going up to a random, like he's just stomping cockroaches in his apartment, and then he's going on the street.
He's just fucking kicking like
He's drop
pigeons.
kicking them like it's nothing. Okay, and then here's the next one: the power ups. Okay, so
Oh,
this
boy,
one this
yeah.
one I find interesting. So the fire flower. So that's your typical one, that especially when he like turns into like a white suit and he's like has a red shirt on or
I can
something.
imagine like maybe he picked up a dandelion or something and he starts eating it and then he just has fucking meatballs.
So no, hold on, ready? So this is what it says. It says he's scarfed down a spicy meatball, and now he thinks he's shooting fireballs. Now here's the best part. What if he's but Brad said before, he was like, yeah, what if he's taking those fucking meatballs and just chucking it right at people?
He's just chucking it. This is what I'm saying. Like maybe like I'm thinking like maybe he like saw like a dandelion or some random flower and he like just picked it up thinking like this is a fire flower, and now he's seeing the meatballs that he grabbed because he was hungry, and now
Now he's chucking it at people.
Now he thinks like he has like fire, so now he's like chucking fire at people like he thinks are Goombas or whatever.
And
Or
then
Hammer Brothers.
now this one, these next two are this is good. So star power. Okay, so this is usually a typical one you'll see. And this one he goes and then he like runs around and he's like killing everything that he sees. This one it says he just found a glow stick necklace at a rave. Like,
Oh my gosh!
like literally, okay, hey man, woo, and I'm just running around and hitting people.
What's funnier is if he's actually running around doing the
Yeah, like he's making his own theme music. So, on top of that, now we got the one up, or like the basically like grows in
that
size.
just makes it funnier.
This is the one up. So ready? So it's what if he's just drinking a case of surge soda that he chugs all night long? Like, I mean, imagine that. What if he did all three at once?
Oh, he has the glow necklace, and then he's doing the and maybe it's not surge. Maybe he's just downing like monsters.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. Nowadays, I would say that's probably
You know what I mean? So like maybe he's just downing monsters and he has like the glow stick and he's and he's throwing meatballs. You know? Oh my gosh.
What kind of shit is this?
So we get into the levels, okay?
Well, I think this one is probably one of the best right here.
So we get the pipes. We all know Mario goes down these pipes, right? So now he's crawling into strangers' toilets yelling, "Wahoo!
Wahoo!"
The underwater levels. He's passed out face down into a fountain.
Because he's so drunk from the damn
he's
surges or something.
Yeah, he's just so, high out off his mind from these freaking shrooms that, yeah, he's face down in a fountain and he thinks he's underwater. And that's where we're playing as Mario underwater, thinking like...
So he's basically killing himself while he's doing it, but that's
the castle level? Well, he just wandered into an Olive Garden kitchen and started throwing plays at the chef.
It's like, fuck you, bitch. And then the good old boss battle. Okay, so in his mind, Bowser kidnapped Peach. Okay, so here's the reality. He's beating up his ex-wife's boyfriend in a Walmart parking lot with a plunger. How do you?
Oh my
That's
god!
what I'm saying. Like, how do you? So you go, come here, motherfucker. You know, he's like, just hitting him constantly.
So yeah, he's thinking, he's beating. He's trying. He needs to beat Bowser to rescue the Princess Peach, but this really he's sitting in Walmart beating the shit out of this guy. This guy, probably his name is Greg or some shit like Greg
some stupid, and then
Chad or something.
He's like, come here, bitch. I'm gonna hit you with my plunger real quick.
Yeah. So the whole thing is like Mario didn't save a princess. He basically what he did is he clogged 3 toilets, he stomped on 30 pigeons, assaulted a dude named Greg, and then passed out in an alleyway. But in his head, he's Super Mario.
Or it's a me, Mario.
It's a me, Mario.
Wahoo!
I don't know. This is fucking stupid, but
it really is stupid.
It could be plausible.
It very
if
could
you've ever
be.
played Mario, I mean,
he's eating a lot of shrooms, man. And how do you not get high off that at that point? You know, and I mean, everyone, and it's funny, even in the animated movie, everyone's like, yeah, eat this mushroom. And he's like, I don't want to. And he's like, oh, yep. And he's like, okay.
You're eating, I mean, in the game, you eat a mushroom and you get taller.
Right. Is he goes, and it just like grows in size. And I'm just like, how do you grow in size all of a sudden? Like, how does that work? I mean, can I do that randomly now and be like, ooh, hey, this feels great.
But in other games, like you become like random animals. I mean, in Mario Kart, like you're literally racing and throwing bananas at it. You know what I mean? Like it's just the most random shit in these Mario games, and it's like, okay, I can kind of see the shroom thing being maybe plausible.
So you know, what if but stupid? You know what? I think it's plausible.
Plausible.
Either way.
Plausible.
And then we're gonna jump right back into the segments here, but arcades versus consoles. And this is actually, I would say, kind of a big turnaround too. So yes, I will admit that yes, depending on the era, there we go. Like I would say 70s for sure was really, I'm not saying that they wouldn't have had consoles too, but arcades were the thing, right? And I'm also going to say like 80s, yes, and 90s, you would have had arcades too. But also consoles were, especially like in the 80s, that like I'm not saying people wouldn't want to go to like your local arcade and go play in tournaments and stuff, but like you wanted to be playing on a console with a buddy or whoever at that time. But like in the case of this, right? So arcades as social arenas, like so for example, you had like Street Fighter 2, battles with crowds behind you, Mortal Kombat, Blood Code hype. The arcade was a place where legends were made. Kids became local celebrities for their skills. So, like now, it's like, was that arcade kid energy lost once consoles took over? I think in some ways it did because, like, you wouldn't, unless you were like best friends with the guy or like you had some of those things, you really didn't know. I mean, you were just like, you'd go to school and maybe you'd go, hey, did you see that guy Greg last week? He was pretending to be Bowser or something. No, I'm joking. But like, he was the dude.
See the guy Greg? He got his ass kicked in a Walmart parking lot by some dude.
His name's Mario, I think, or something. they think some kind of plumber or whatever. But no, I mean, like in that case, like arcades. Yes.
Like once consoles came out, I mean, arcades were just fun. Like before consoles, I mean. you were playing arcades to get like the top score, and like you would put your name in, and it was like,
So it'd be
"Oh,
like,
dude, you got the top score in Mortal Kombat." Like,
right, or like I would thinking like Galaga or like something like Tetris or even like Pac-Man or
Right.
something like that. Like you'd do that, or like you'd have those like weird games that they would come out with, and like you would
the
try to beat
thing-
the high score.
the thing with the Mortal Kombat blood code, I mean, there were cheat codes, but back in the '90s games, like everything had cheat codes. By the way,
But you had, but see, here's the
they,
thing though,
they were
but
built into the game.
but you had to find out how to do it.
You had to find out how to do it. So, in the arcade version, though, Mortal Kombat had a blood code that you would perform during the title screen.
Mm,
And basically, what it would do is it would unlock the gore and the fatalities. Because in the arcade, it didn't have it.
right.
So, the code was ABACABB. That was the code that you would. And then when you got the code correctly, you would hear Scorpion's like famous catchphrase, "Get over here!" Like you would hear that.
Oh,
And
that
then the
makes sense.
text would turn red, confirming that uncensored fatalities were unlocked, because that's what the thing was on the arcade.
Right,
The
that-
fatalities were censored.
So it's funny how that was their loophole. That was their loophole on finding
was
ways
their-
to
yes.
do that.
That was their loophole, was that they on at least the arcade, because they were public,
Right.
versus the consoles where they didn't have to do that.
Right, but it's funny because once they were again in those court, battles and things of that nature with the ratings, it's just funny how all they did was like, hey, guess what? I put a little secret code in there for you if you want to, unlock that gore and blood shit coming out, and so it's crazy to see how, they were just like, you know what, we don't give a shit about the the U.S. government in a sense. We're like,
Right.
you know what, we're just gonna throw this little sign piece here if you want to go figure that out, and then. Here's the other thing, right? And I know with consoles, bring in the party home. I like that. Bring in the party home.
Yeah.
By the mid-decade, the Nintendo 64 and the PlayStation pulled experience into living rooms, this is where Matt was talking about this, right? So like the sleepovers replaced the arcade trip. GoldenEye, Mario Kart, Smash,
Super
Smash
Smash Brothers. Yeah.
Oh my God. What was it? Couch chaos. Did the social aspect of gaming die or did it evolve? I believe it fully evolved.
I mean, I think you have to look at it, I think, in two different facets, right? Like there was a social aspect of gaming that when you went to an arcade, you were there in person. When you were playing the N64 or your PlayStation, you were there in person with friends playing. And did that evolve? Yes, it did evolve. But it evolved in a way where now if we play, I don't see you. Like
True.
we're chatting on our headsets.
True.
We're still playing, but I don't physically see you. And I think that's what's different. So you have one aspect where yes, I can literally play, and I will put maybe Battlefront or Battlefield, because those two games, one's Star Wars, one's like a war based.
Yeah.
But they all had the original Battlefront, not the newer one, but the older one, had a bigger multiplayer version
Right.
where you would be going in there and you had maybe a team of like 16.
Right.
And when you were chatting with all of them.
True.
You know what I mean? But if I go into a match in Call of Duty or even Battlefield, I'm chatting with everybody. And so there's that aspect of it where it's like, I'm not just talking to one person, I'm talking to like everybody, at least the ones that are on my team.
Right.
Whereas before, yeah, the N64 only had 4 controllers, so I'd be talking to like my friend group.
Right.
But we were in person, so it was like I could see them, they could see me, we could see what we were doing on the screen. So it was more like, oh, dude, I can't believe you were doing that, and we can,
Like fist bump,
Yeah.
like, or actually, hold on, the 80s. Yeah. No, I'm joking.
But I think that's like what's different is like now it's not so personal; it's more impersonal.
Well,
where we're not like actually being able to physically interact. We're just interacting with.
we're gonna try this again, Matt. Would you rather me be in the same room with you and be like, "Yeah, brother," and then
Well,
like
it's
you're
just
gonna be like
that's
that?
not
You know?
really possible.
No, I'm just asking. I'm just like, because if you missed that, I mean, I can definitely try to go over to your house more often and be like, "Hey, you want to play a game? Hold on, we play together." But no, I mean, I agree. I mean,
I think it did evolve. I think the physical social aspect of it definitely shifted in a more negative way where
well, that was the problem was it was much later though. That's the
right,
thing.
but that's all I'm saying is I think the physical aspect of gaming where yes, we're inviting friends over, we're making a night of it, we're sleepovers, we're like
Well,
that was the thing that you just did. Like you were, hey, bring your controllers, we're going to have snacks, we're going to have dinner like
here's the other thing too. You also didn't have to worry about going to a place. You already had to travel there. And then on top of that, you're already paying more money through quarters and other things like that. So you're already paying however much, money you're going to be doing that for that session. So I mean, I'm just saying because like
well, I'm not even saying arcade. I'm saying consoles. Like I'm saying N64. Like when we were playing N64, like we would stay over there and then we would just play this thing all fucking night long.
Oh, right.
And we just we were having the time of our life. And that was like,
yeah, but like I said, like there was no, like if you had the game, then you didn't have to worry about like paying more money or doing other things to go somewhere else to then play a game.
well, no, but that's what I'm saying. Like we, the four of us that were all playing. I mean, granted, there were more than four of us that would do that because we would switch off,
right,
and everything. But like, it was a group of us that were playing, and I think it was just that personal relationship. We were all together in the same room. We were playing. We were having fun, joking, laughing.
Right.
Razzing on each other when somebody would do something stupid. But now you're not in the same room. Like you can still razz on when somebody does something stupid, but you're not in the same room. So like I don't know what's going on. Like if your character's all of a sudden running into a wall or running, going in circles, and you're like,
the fuck are you doing?
what the hell are you doing, bro?
And how many times, John, are you good there?
You must have fucking left.
He's like, motherfucker. No, I mean, it's true, though, because Call of Duty does do that from time to time where you're like, well, what did that person just do over there? Okay, never mind. I'm just going to go.
But I think it did evolve. There are some aspects of it like that. Obviously, we're busy as adults, so it's not like, hey, John, you want to come over and play my PlayStation with me, bro?
Come on, jump on, buddy. I'm like, yeah, okay.
So online obviously does add that benefit of like you don't have to come over my house and bring your controller and be like, hey, I'm here, man. Let's go.
Because and again, that's also setting up. It's just like setting up this shit that we do all the time when we're doing this. But yeah, I get that. I mean, yes, like I said, I do agree that there were certain aspects that has changed and sometimes negatively when it comes to like social. But now that it's even though that we're not in the same room, we're still being able to still talk and still joke with each other, razz. But it's just I get it. It's that difference of the old school way of doing it versus now where I don't have to keep setting everything up. I can just do it.
And let's just put this out there: the arcade vibe, look, sticky carpets, neon lights. We got the cigarette smoke. You get pizza grease.
Cigarette smoke was probably cigarette and the sticky carpets were really the big.
I mean, arcades were awesome back in the day. They were literally the place to go to if you wanted to play games, but it also was you had to have the money because these things started as you put a quarter in, you play the game, and then all of a sudden it was 50 cents, and then 50 cents became 75, and then 75 somehow became $1, and you're like, what the fuck?
I don't want to go to this arcade anymore because it's too damn much money.
It's like when did playing TMNT become me paying a fucking $1 just for a game that I have to pay like basically like, hey, I need another $40 so I can beat the game.
Yeah, and you're like, God damn, I don't. But that's the truth, though. I mean, it's crazy when. That's why I was saying, I'm like, the difference between that and the consoles is like, yes, I mean, when you look at or at least the arcades, yes, it's pure sensory overload. I mean, it's so much in your face, but like at the same time, you're You're not really comfortable. You're
If I could
standing
have
there.
all the money that I dumped into arcade games,
Oh, you'd be
I
a
wouldn't have
millionaire, right?
I wouldn't have to work anymore.
That's true. I mean, and like here's another question for you. Early, I guess to everybody else, you know, arcades felt alive in a way modern gaming rarely does. You know, was it nostalgia or something truly lost? You know, like when I look at an arcade, you know, to me, it's like, yeah, of course I like going to like the old school arcades or like some places that have it. But like, you know, now it has been lost where, you know, you go to an arcade, you're like, yeah, I'm only going to pay, you know, because like you said, it's like $1. It could be whatever it is. I mean, hell, how many times, I mean, when we went to Dave and Buster's,
I mean, I love
you
Dave
know-
and Buster's, but there's something that's just lost with the newer games, you know, that they make now that are just not as fun as the games that were back then. Like, I would
Yeah.
love to go. I
like
mean,
a retro gaming or like a retro arcade gaming.
yeah,
thing?
I mean, you know, some of these places, like if they ever made like a retro arcade where they had like, you know, X-Men and the, you know, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and the Simpsons, these side scrollers that were like classics, I would love that.
So I do remember of one place. The problem is that it's, I'm pretty sure when I went there, I think it was in Arizona, to be honest. I think it was just a random place in, what was it? It was in Mariana, or really like, I guess it was like a little outside of Tucson, but it was a random little spot. And I remember going there and I was like, man, this is actually pretty cool. And we went there and we had like a good time. And I remember just kind of like looking around and I'm like, oh, there was so many retro games. And I was just like, holy shit. Like, I mean, I like was thinking about it now and I'm like, you know, I don't think I only spent like a little bit of time in there, but like it'd be cool if like, you know, you and I could go, or at least in New England, if there was a place like that where you could go and just like, hey, you want to play like, you know, TMNT or X-Men or, you know, your old school like Street Fighter games or even hell, fucking Mortal Kombat, you know, if they brought that back. I mean, I would play the shit out of those games with you. I'd be like, come on, who are you going to be? I was like, I'll beat the shit out of you with fucking Scorpion, motherfucker. He's like, or I was like, you know, man, I'm gonna beat the hell out of you with fucking Raiden, motherfucker, you know, or something like that. You know, we've already talked about that little quarter eating or quarters, you know, and stuff. But you know, moving kind of forward here, you know, for the, you know, our basically last segment, you know, random, forgotten, or weird '90s gaming trends. So I will admit, now looking at some of these, I mean, there was probably like one thing that I did at the bottom. Actually, I guess so this top one I never had unless you had, because I never actually had one, which is the Virtual Boy.
Virtual Boy was like one of the, I think it was like a classic, kind of like the first version of like a VR.
So I love this top, literally the first thing it says, 1995 migraine machine.
Well, it hyped it as VR, but it basically was just red and black. Like that's the only colors that it would do. It was just red and black.
So, I mean,
I guess it was kind of, the talking point was, I guess it was kind of ahead of its time, but
I mean, it's
it
also
didn't-
doomed from the start. Yes.
Yes, it was doomed from the start. So it was both. It was ahead of its time and it was doomed from the start.
I mean, because I can only imagine putting that thing on and be like, okay, what you're kind of like trying to adjust your eyes, and all of a sudden, all you see is black and red. Like you don't even see the other colors. You're not seeing anything else, and it's like, you're right. I think I probably would get a migraine, and I would sit there and be like, so why the fuck did I put this thing on my head? And is this even? It was like, is this?
But it
was this supposed to be
basically
allowed?
it basically was you had a controller, and basically like you had a viewfinder. That's basically what it was, and you basically looked in the viewfinder, and you had your controller, and then you went.
What am I looking at again?
And all it did was like it gave you it was a still like side scrolling, but it was, I never had one.
Okay, because I was like, I never
But-
had one either.
What it did was it gave you the side scrolling, but it gave you kind of like a level of distance, like so it looked like it was
Further away, yeah.
further away, but it was still like weird and side scrolling, but it was only red and black. Like the colors were just red and black. But I will talk about, the accessories and add-ons. These were huge in the 90s because if you wanted to save your game, you needed a memory card. But like
Absolutely.
even the N64, like you could buy rumble packs because controllers didn't have. Maybe the PlayStation did, but
Oh, like the sensory in the back of the controller?
the N64 you could buy rumble packs and it made the controller vibrate.
Okay, so yeah, so I know like the original PlayStation and especially PlayStation 2, that's where I know like right on the front of it it'll say DualShock, right? And so like now that's kind of like the standard now, but like yeah, like back then you didn't have a like you're basically your whole hand was shaking at that point, but like
Yeah.
now we can, especially nowadays, you can literally turn that shit off because honestly, it does get annoying because like after you're like, hey, I'm gonna in Call of Duty and you're shooting, all of a sudden you're like, your hand's shaking and you're like, okay, dude, I'm not gonna try to shake my hand this entire time. It's nice when you're playing a game, and I remember like in the PS4, you know how like certain games like in the controller it would echo, like the somebody who was talking on the screen and like you would kind of hear what they were saying too.
Yeah.
And then like the vibrating of it. I mean, it's like getting that interactive feeling, but then sometimes you're like, dude, this is annoying. Like, why do I want this echo to finally come out of my controller and then have a vibration on top of that too? But
another big one, I didn't put this in the notes, but another big one I was just thinking of. I mean, we can skip the peripherals; those are kind of stupid.
Yeah, that does seem really stupid.
But one of the big ones for the accessories, the Game Shark.
Yes, I do remember those.
That one was like, or the Game Genie, the Game Shark and the Game Genie. Those were two big ones where if you needed a cheat code,
that's
and
what I was
you
gonna
did not
say.
know what it was,
They would help you out.
you would plug your console into the Game Shark or the Game Genie, and then you would plug that into your system, and basically it would give you every cheat code for the game that you needed. And basically that's what you basically did.
I can't remember. I think it was called. I can't remember what. There was a website that my brother and I used because like I remember back in the day of like the early PlayStation days and PlayStation.
Well, I mean,
2.
Cheat Code Central has been around
That's
forever.
that's what it was.
Yeah.
It was that one because you'd go on there and you'd be like,
Yeah,
okay,
Cheat Code Central has been around forever.
right? Because you'd go on there and you'd be like, hey, what do I need to like? What are all the cheat codes for a certain game? Like GTA was a big one. Like San Andreas and a few others. Like, hey, give me 1,000,000 bullets and like give me like unlimited health and like I'll never die. Like those were the things that you're like, even though the game would recognize it and be like, are you sure you want to do this? Like, are you sure you want to cheat? And you're like, yeah, I do actually. Thank you. No, but it's true though. I mean, because like then I would think like there had to be one for like the GoldenEye and a few other things, right, at the time. Well, I don't know about like that.
No, I mean, with the N64, I mean, you basically use the controller for that. But I mean, there were cheat codes that were like, obviously God mode and not so much for multiplayer because that we didn't really use the cheat codes for that. But I mean, the like cheat codes for when you were playing like the campaign.
Oh yeah.
You could do like, unlimited ammo. You could do God mode. I mean, there was like where you could have all, the golden gun from the start because you didn't have a golden gun from.
Yeah, you had to wait until probably the end at that point. But yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you basically use the Game Genie whenever you could because most of these games had cheat codes built in. So
True.
But like I said, most of these games you could not save in the game. You had to save to a memory card because the actual game itself did not have, like, the consoles themselves did not have onboard memory.
So I know with the original PlayStation and at least with the PlayStation 2, yes, they were optional accessories, but yes, realistically they wouldn't have like nowadays they wouldn't have like an internal hard drive where you could save it on the actual console. And so of course later on, that's why I know PlayStation and like Xbox and a few others. Yeah, like even in like the Game Boy Color, you, like I said, you had to find a save point, but like it would save your data on the thing, like the handheld, but like like you said, like unless if you didn't have it, then guess what? Every single time you're gonna go back in there and redo everything that you did, and then if that's what some people did, then that's fine. But like realistically, you're like, I want to save my progress, man. Why do I want to redo 30 hours worth of crap, in this one session? But
yeah, all right. I think we can call this one in the books.
Oh, what? You don't want to talk about Tamagotchi or Digimon?
No,
Digimon. Digital monsters. Actually, well, so real quick. So digital or Digimon, I actually remember watching the TV show and watching, or at least like the Digimon thing. Um, Tamagotchis were literally it was just a 90s just overall thing. I mean, the fact that it was like a living, or sorry, a electronic pet that you would like feed and you would do other things with. Like that was more, I'm not saying guys didn't do it, but that really was more of a girl, thing that I would say most of the time. I mean, I'm not saying guys didn't do it, but like a lot of girls did the Tamagotchis and the
Yeah,
stuff
I
like
mean,
that.
it's like I think more females, but there were more kids that did it, and it was more of like, oh, look at my cute little pet.
Like, here's my Tamagotchi.
Yeah.
No, I know, but no, I mean, these were just interesting because you know, I actually like this digital pets that beeped until you fed them, so that's annoying as hell. And portable addictions that turned classrooms into pet cemeteries. There you go.
Yeah, because if you didn't feed them or
You
give them what
did.
they needed, they died.
Correct. And I mean, it's funny how this turned into just like this weird phenomenon too, because like nowadays, I remember even on the Nintendo DS, there was I can't remember the game itself, but like basically it was like you were a veterinarian and you would like pet your dog and like you would pet like certain animals or like you would groom them and do other stuff with that, but like they would get annoying because they'd be like, hey, play with me and feed me and do other things, and I'm sitting there like, I'm not playing with you right now because I got to go do some other stuff because I'm not sitting here doing this with you right now. But it's just,
Yeah.
like I said, 90s just in general, overall gaming, they had some weird shit, plain and simple. And then, again, if you could honestly look at playing an N64 now, and then if you could, maybe at some point we could try to do this, try to play an N64 game on let's say a TV now, and then just go ahead and just like pull up Call of Duty or something that you're playing, like Borderlands, and then be like, which one would you rather play right now? And you're like, well, I kind of like the graphics, so I'm going to stick with what I currently have and maybe not be like, hey, you know what, let me just go play this.
I don't want to have to take the 20 minutes to figure out how to use this freaking controller.
You mean the Trident? Yeah, you want to try the Trident again and be like, shit, how do I, hold on, is this the right way to do it? Hold on, let me get the cord. Like, how do I readjust this again? And how do I do this one more time?
Yeah.
He's like, and that's it.
And I'm done.
And he's like, I'm going to throw it against the wall, and it's no longer, it's worth basically nothing at this point. Anyways, boys and girls, anything else you want to be called, we are done for tonight. But yes, no, we are definitely saying that 90s was an interesting time. Gaming was an interesting time. I'm going to say it. Nintendo honestly was one of the clear winners. Again, it was just harder to say that, Sega did a good job, but they had some interesting games. They had some stuff that they did, but at the end of the day, I think Nintendo really, took the cake on that one, but that's just me. But anyways, yes, I know Matt talked about the whole little fist bump, but I'm going to say it again. Do your little fist bump. Do your little follow. Interact. Subscribe and tell your friends, baby, because I'm telling you, we're two dudes on two different mics. We cannot do this without you guys. So literally do that. Follow us. Tell your friends. Tell the hobo across the street at Walmart. I don't care. You just tell them because that's just who we are. We're like, we don't care who you are. We want you to come and come and listen as best as you can, okay? And again, check out the merch store, man. Check out everything that we do. There's so many things that we're trying to do. But again, we're two dudes, man. We can't do everything all at once. So until next time, boys and girls.